Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. Coming up this evening, government directs ministers of state not to announce major policies without prior cabinet approval. We ask, what could be informing this directive? And later on, Education Minister Haruna Iddrisu is defending renewed efforts by the Ghana Education Service to enforce discipline in schools, insisting that rules on hairstyle, dress code, and general conduct are essential to instilling discipline among students. And later in the bulletin, the College of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CETAG, set to strike if government fails to settle allowances by the end of October. We are live around the world on 3news.com. We are also streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. Just log on, look for 3FM 92.7, and you can be a part of the national conversation. Before we bring you the details, let's bring you summaries by Christabel Success Treve. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Martin. We start off with government because they are issuing a sharp reminder to all ministers of state, prohibiting them from publicly announcing any major policy initiatives or programs without securing prior cabinet approval. The directive, issued on Monday by the Secretary to Cabinet, Professor Kweku Danso-Boafo, stresses that non-compliance violates constitutional protocols and the fundamental principle of collective government responsibility. The Minister of Education has moved swiftly to quell public debates surrounding the compulsory use of Ghanaian languages as a medium of instruction in basic schools. Now, Deputy Education Minister Dr. Clement Apak clarified that the new directive issued by the Sector Minister Haruna Iddrisu is strictly limited to the earliest stages of basic education and does not extend across all levels. This clarification was delivered on Monday, October 27th, 2025, at the launch of the Foundational Learning Action Tracker, following widespread public discussion and concern over the initial announcement. Unidentified gunmen on Sunday, October 26, attacked a family residence in Binduri in the Upper East region, killing 3 people and injuring 2 others. Among the victims were 2 children and 3 adults. The children and one of the adults were confirmed dead. Eyewitnesses say the attack occurred late in the evening, leaving the community in shock and in deep sorrow. One of the injured has been identified as George Bukari. He is the manager of a Binduri-based radio and TV station. Finally, the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CETAG, has warned that it will embark on a full-scale nationwide strike if the government fails to honor outstanding payments and full pay implementation, an arbitral award granted by the National Labour Commission in May 2023. Now, the president of CETAG, Maxwell Bunu, said members will not return to lecture rooms if the outstanding components of the award, including arrears of the 2023-2024 book and research allowance, are not paid before the reopening of colleges in November 11, 2025. We've got this and a very lot more on our website, 3news.com. Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much for the summaries. Let's delve into the details of our stories now. And like we indicated, you can be a part of the show on our Facebook stream and our YouTube page. You can send your messages in and we'll be more than glad to share it with the rest of the world, especially on the subjects that we are going to be treating, like that of what's happening in our secondary schools or our second cycle institutions. The minister is insisting that hairstyles must be uniform. Everybody have a low cut until the period you're out of the school. Then you can do whatever hairstyles you want. But if you want to stay in public government schools, you need to conform to the directive. This has generated quite the debate, and many of you are talking about it. So do send us some of those messages. And again, the issue of language. Some of us were whipped and beaten, when we were in secondary school for speaking our local languages. They called it vernacular and made it look like it was an outrageous evil. But now, over time, there seemed to be that general acceptance that instructing our children or younger people in the local language is a very important aspect of their building blocks that they need in their formative years. So at what point did that change, and how are teachers and schools rearranging or reforming their teaching methods to accommodate the local language. And are teachers going to be insisting that, for instance, if a teacher cannot speak any of the local languages, what happens in that instance? A very interesting conversation is happening in that regard. So do let us know your thoughts as well. I'll be happy to share it with the rest of the world. But we're starting from the conversation regarding a directive that came from the Office of the Secretary to Cabinet. And it says the government has issued a firm directive reminding all ministers of state that no major policy initiative or program should be publicly announced without prior cabinet approval. The instruction, contained in a circular dated the 27th of October, was signed by the Secretary to Cabinet, Professor Kweku Danso-Boafo. According to the circular, Cabinet has observed a growing trend where some ministers announce new initiatives before those proposals are being formally discussed or approved. The directive describes such actions as a violation of constitutional protocols and a breach of the principle of collective government responsibility, which requires that all major policy decisions reflect consensus at the cabinet level. The statement said, in part, and I'm quoting, "No public policy program or major initiative shall be considered a policy of government unless it has been duly submitted, deliberated upon, and approved by Cabinet." Unquote. The notice also instructed all ministers to channel proposed policies and programs and legislative initiatives through their chief directors to the Cabinet Secretariat for formal inclusion on the Cabinet agenda. It explained that this is to ensure that all government decisions are properly vetted, aligned with national priorities, and reflect the unified position of the administration. The statement cautioned that any policy or public statement made outside this approved process will not be recognized as official government policy. Let's speak to Professor Enoch Opoku Entry on this issue. He is a governance expert and has joined us for a quick chat on this. Prof, good evening to you. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you. What are your, before this initiative came out, a number of ministers on their own platforms have given specific policy directions or proposals they intend to initiate when they take, or now that they are in office. We've had the roads minister talk, the education minister, and a number of, even the health minister, a number of them have given key issues they believe are necessary for the ministry to succeed. And then they roll it out with anticipation that government or the generality of the government will support that initiative. But the announcement coming from Cabinet says that all of that should be suspended. You can only publicly announce a policy initiative when it has been given Cabinet approval. How does this come to you?
It comes to me, good evening once again to all your listeners everywhere in the world. That policy comes to me as timely because there are a lot of individual initiatives touted as policies of being flaunted out there in the public domain that could be a news to the cabinet. So let's say one ministry, somebody says that, I'm just giving an example, that you cannot have long hair in education. And then there are other people thinking about, what about somebody with a natural long hair or somebody who is dreadlock and don't want to cut it? So if that policy is coming from cabinet, that means that all protocols have been observed. They have looked at all the pros and the cons. Cabinet have really debated it, and then they have approved it. That has more weight than the individual minister thinking about something and saying that because of what I believe, this is how it should be. But Thomas Fuller said something that is important. He said, where necessity pinches, boldness is prudence. So it is necessary to make some decisions, but the boldness of that decision, which makes it prudence as a virtue, means that cabinet should approve it.
What then do you say about the autonomy of these ministries? At what point can they, based on what they are seeing, because they are on the ground, at what point can they say that this decision is important, we are going to run with it, although they are not going to, they've not given or been given government cabinet approval yet? Is it that everything they have to run to government? That will raise issues of micromanagement. Do you not agree?
Well, you might look at it that way, but this is not micromanagement, because in governance, speaking with one voice is very important. Else, you say something that you believe, there will be a pushback from the citizens. Then government will have to make that an emergency, go sit on it, and then determine something which might be different. If that happens, it means that whatever you said, you could be embarrassed with it. And I think that is why it is important to have what we call coercive motivation using restrictive zones. So there are restrictive zones of things you can say, things you cannot say. And cabinet has been bold to come out to say that, yes, there are many things you cannot do or say and behave as if it is a policy approved by government. I think it's in the right direction, because we have something also called inhibitive motivation. Inhibitive motivation in leadership means I can't, or else something bad will happen to me. So we sometimes think we can't make a mistake, else we will be fired. And that makes some leaders not to try or make an attempt in doing something new. So one way of not making a mistake is to stay at what you have always done, and no flexibility, no creativity, no risk. So people who are totally risk avoidant are those who will say, I cannot make any initiative. The government is not saying that you cannot make initiative, just saying that pass through cabinet protocols with it, with any idea, because policies are coming from ideation. And if the ideas come and then you pass through cabinet and all your colleagues approve of it, then with that common voice, it is easier to implement that policy than coming from your own ministry and it's your own idea.
Right. And what does that... Okay, so would you agree that in the statement that the Secretary to Cabinet released, he should have given a bit more clarity on what types of policies, unless they want to say it is all types of policies, because there is this understanding, and I might be wrong, there is this understanding that there are some of the policies which are attitudinal that the ministry wants to pursue, and then maybe there are those that would need some financial backing from government. So there should be some clarity. If it is a policy direction that would require maybe the government purse being, we need to go to the government for some financial assistance in implementing them, those ones need clarity and approval from cabinet. But if, for instance, a ministry says henceforth we should all learn to wash our hands, or something that is primarily attitudinal in nature, those ones wouldn't need cabinet approval, no?
Yes, attitudes are not policies. So let me clarify some few things. The secret of governance actually lies in policy making. And when we talk about policy making, it's a finely crafted sort. So it's not about somebody saying something, somebody controlling an attitude or anything. It is about doing the right things in the right way. And what is the benefits, or what are the benefits of doing the right thing in the right way, as stated by this letter from the cabinet? It means that you submit that attitude or idea, whatever you think is right, you submit it to them. They will debate, which means they will deliberate on it. And then once it is approved, guess what? You initiated it, but everybody is on board now because you've created a buy-in. And let me tell you the benefits of that. There are more time spent working on important issues, because every issue that comes and approved by the cabinet becomes important. And that protects you from trivial issues, because what you might have said or done thinking that it's a trivial thing could be more important and generate a public debate that could affect the government. And then it is also a way of empowering you that, okay, bring ideas to us, we'll debate it. We are not going to throw any idea away. Bring it, we'll debate it, and then come out with a driven policy that will also favor the government. Then there's also going to be a greater personal fulfillment. Guess what? If you have an idea, you bring it and cabinet approve it, are you not fulfilled? just like an individual in Parliament will start an individual bill, and once it is debated on the floor and approved, sometimes it is even named after the individual who started the whole process. So it also clarifies roles and responsibilities. Your role as a minister, yes, you are supposed to initiate some ideas, but some of the responsibilities of your initiative could affect the government as a whole, and that is why they need to be synchronized.
I'm grateful that you could speak to us. Maybe finally, before you leave, so henceforth, what should our expectations be as citizens? Should there be, for instance, any major policy that will be announced by any minister? Should be there should be a preamble to say, well, this has been given the all clear by cabinet. So then he tells us, well, or she tells us what it should be. Should that be part of their public conversations, or when they address us publicly, there should be the clarity between what has been cleared for us to hear about, and then if not, maybe they can throw it in the air. There's a public debate where we also know that sometimes they tease the public. They throw bits and pieces of some of these items there, gauge how conversations are going, then that consolidates whatever position government will eventually arrive or decide on. So what should personally our expectations be as Ghanaians?
I think that Ghanaians, we should have the increased likelihood that the desired results of the policies will be reached for the nations, because we are all looking for results. I also think that it is up to the current ministers to do some checks and balances, check from the government that this is what I'm thinking, and then they go through the processes that have been given to them. It helps, like I said, with a common voice for all of them. The challenge is that you have even cabinet issues being discussed, they've not finished, and some of these individuals will be telling friends and other people that this is what we are planning, and before you know it is out there. That is why they also swear oath for secrecy. So they're supposed to keep some of these things until cabinet approve of it, so that it becomes new and fresh, and then motivate the people towards a common goal.
Right. Prof, thank you so much for speaking to us this evening.
You're welcome. Have a great evening.
You too, sir. And we've been speaking to Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi, who is a governance expert, sharing his thoughts on the latest letter coming from the office of the cabinet secretary or secretary to the cabinet, who has given clear indications that henceforth all ministers should make sure that whatever policy or proposal they will be putting out there should get the green light from cabinet, or else it will be their own hurdle to clear or their own load to carry, because the state is not going to allow almost any and every minister to, on their own accord, be announcing policies, some of which catches government or the executive by surprise. But what do you also make of this? I mean, you are the ones being governed. What do you make of this proposal that they need all of us to align in what they tell the Ghanaian people? That should actually be a call in the right direction. But your thoughts are always welcome on our Facebook stream and our YouTube page. 3FM 92.7 is the station. This is a hot edition. We are live around the world on 3news.com. We are streaming on our website as well. So just log on to 3news.com, and then you can look for the audio button, and then you can listen on the go. We're shifting our attention to some other stories this evening, and from all indications, it looks as though the Ministry of Education has been one of the busiest in the last few days. Over the weekend, the minister himself had a program where he touched on one of the key issues that parents, guardians, students, and the entirety of the country have been having conversations on. The minister defended the Ghana Education Service's renewed enforcement of discipline in schools. He emphasized that rules on hairstyles, dress code, and general conduct are essential to instilling discipline and respect among students. The minister made these remarks when he paid a courtesy call on the management of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, that is NACA, and the Complementary Education Agency in Accra. Let's listen to the key issues he raised there. Then we'll see what the general public has been speaking about regarding this.
I don't want this hair in the secondary school, the very difference of hairstyle. So for purpose of uniformity and for discipline, and for enforcing character and preparing them for a tomorrow. After a certain age, when they get into tertiary institutions, they are free to wear what kind of hairstyle they want, but not at the basic secondary level. Therefore, I demand the cooperation and support of parents for the GS to strictly and religiously enforce this directive. It's for purpose of uniformity. And as I indicated, tomorrow, if we cave in to hair, tomorrow it will be shoe, the kind of shoe to wear or not to wear, and the next day it will be a different style of dress that they are opting for. And we expect that parents, hand to hand, in my training as a student of sociology, socialization is a shared responsibility between parents and teachers.
And that is Haruna Iddrisu, who is the Minister in charge of Education, and he also maintained his stance on his policy direction for teachers to use the mother tongue as the medium of instruction in early grade classrooms. According to the Minister, research has shown that children learn better when taught in a language they understand, especially at the foundational stage of education.
I made some comments and gave a directive. I stand wholly and absolutely behind the directive that the Ghana Education Service must uphold the learning environment and the learning instruction has been important to understanding and improving foundational learning. As much as we all argue that we should go beyond literacy and numeracy texts, we are molding character and behavior. And I understand that my directive to the effect that teaching in Ghanaian language, maybe for purpose of clarity, I meant from kindergarten up to grade 6. The language of instruction should be local Ghanaian language. Because that child was not born an English child. And that child comes to the school being trained at home as part of parent socialization in her native language. And that native language would help her acquire English as a second but formal national language. And therefore, I stand firm and strongly behind the directives, but to limit it to up to grade 3. Indeed, if a child after grade 3 cannot read and write, then there is something wrong with Ghana's education provision. And NACA must take particular interest in it, that every Ghanaian child up to grade 3 level, basic, should know literacy and numeracy.
Haruna Iddrisu, MP, is the Minister in charge of Ghana's education. Let's now go to the phone lines and speak to Raphael Kofi Gapson. He is the General Secretary of the National Council of Parent-Teacher Association. Mr. Gapson, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
It's a pleasure having you to speak to people on important issues concerning education.
Right. How have you, what kind of reception has this proposal by the minister had? I'm sure over the weekend when he first broached the subject at Maoli Secondary School, there were quite the reaction on social media, even up until this morning and even this afternoon. Many people are still sharing their thoughts on it. There are two separate ones. One has to do with the language of instruction. The other has to do with the dress code, more or less. So from hairstyle to the entire appearance of how students should look like. What kind of reactions have you picked up after the announcement?
Okay, first of all, with the issues about the language policy, to be very honest with you, it's not new. This is something that has been with us. And as practitioners in education and also as parents, we are aware that every child is raised from the home, and both the home and the school environment must come together to give the child the best of educational opportunities. And for that matter, the policy directive has always been that we teach the child from known to unknown. So you teach him with the language, the local language, or the language within the environment of the child. so that the child can be able to navigate from his local dialect and gradually integrate into the English language. So you start from the KG level to the lower level, that is lower primary, KG to primary 3. You teach the child gradually from the local languages within his environment and use those local languages to be able to add up to whatever you have in the English language, be able to make sure the child is able to understand the concepts that we teach the child in both the home and in the school. So that has been the policy position. As to whatever the reason why the minister came up to re-echo it, whether it is for a reason that maybe we are gradually losing the grasp of that particular, the L1, and we gradually are teaching, because he made an analogy that in a place in Kumasi or in Ashanti region or somewhere, the teacher kept on teaching in the English language at the lower levels at the expense of the L1. And the children referred to each other, if that is what has actually happened in that particular space, then it's highly unfortunate. Because as professionally trained people, we expect the teachers to actually know the importance of teaching the L1 and integrating it with the L2 along the lines of the educational.
But Mr. Gabson, some of us are actually quite pained by the fact that we were whipped, we were lashed when we were, expressing ourselves in our local languages a few years ago when we were all in school. So couldn't the framers of our educational structure consider it? How come that it is in modern times that we are now more or less insisting that even if a child communicates in their local language in school, they should be allowed, because again, like you're saying, you move them from the known to the unknown. Probably they should give us some compensation. You do not agree?
Well, if we want to talk about compensation, then we will not grow as a society. I think that the compensation we've learned from some of these things is now trying to make sure that we build on past experience and make sure that we don't get it wrong from the beginning. So yes, I agree with you. Those days, even up to now, sometimes in some schools they don't speak vernacular.
Right.
Or we don't see it on some school walls.
Certainly, you will see it.
It's still there. But you see, the policy directive is that at the lower levels, the LI should be properly used. About 70% or 80-90% of the teaching space should be the LI. But as the child grows, we should be able to integrate the L2, that is the English. And at the basic level and at the JC level, we have to mix the two. That is why the Ghanaian language is a subject that we teach in the classroom. And for that matter, when it comes to Ghanaian language session, the expectation is that the L1 should be more used, both not only speaking, but the writing aspect of it to be something that we should not compromise on. So, yes, we are growing. Some years past, yes, it was not probably seen as the necessity of teaching at the basic level, at the lower levels. But now, that has been the directive. And it's not something that has to do with this particular government. Right. It is something that has been with us more than the last 12, 15 years, if my memory serves me right.
Okay. But let's unpack it a bit more and indulge me. The concern some teachers are also raising is that not all of them can express themselves in the local language in the first place, especially if they are posted to regions or areas where they have no idea how to speak the native language. So how do they navigate some of these challenges? And are we saying that in class, for instance, maybe at primary 1 or KG 1 or 2, the teacher should speak the local language of the area? The cosmopolitan nature of Accra would even make it more difficult. What language should the teacher speak? Is it Ga or Chi? I mean, in Ashanti region, you can rely comfortably on the Akan language, but when you are in places like Accra, how do teachers manage which language to settle on based on which class they are in?
I also appreciate the dynamics that the concerns being raised. There are genuine concerns that really the realities of the time speaks to it. But the truth of the matter is that it's not enough for government to talk about a policy decision without backing it with a necessary human resource and probably the tools or the creating the enabling environment in terms of providing adequate teachers who can be able to teach that particular subject, or who can be able to link the L1 and the L2, and also make sure that the textbooks and other resources that are needed to make sure that environment is so conducive for the L1 to become a medium of instruction at the lower levels. And so this is a challenge that, honestly speaking, it can become an impediment to make sure that this policy gets the needed currency and then the needed impetus to be able to grow on those fertile grounds. And that is why we as parents have always advocated that the schools are government-assisted schools. The schools are not government-funded schools. So sometimes when the officials of the GES and the Ministry of Education create the impression that when we take our children to the schools, we don't have any role to play in complementing to make sure that whatever we need to make sure that our children get the best of educational intervention and best of educational support to enhance educational quality. We have a challenge with that, and we keep on advocating to say that, look, development education is a shared responsibility. So teachers who lack the necessary local impetus in terms of postings and all those things, these are the works that the GES and the Ministry of Education and the Treve or whatever organization is in charge of postings is supposed to see to that you post people to areas that probably they can also support in these categories. Because every person in Ghana here has a language, one or two, besides the English language, there's one or two Ghanaian languages that he can speak very fluently. Am I right?
Yeah, certainly.
So those are things that we also look at when we are being posted, because we are in Ghana, in Accra. In Ghana, they are the Gamashi area. When we go and speak Treve there, they are creating a problem there. But there are some areas in Accra, when you go and speak the Ghana language, it doesn't gel. So all these things must be put in place. That's why I said that every human being is a product of his environment. So the environmental circumstances drive the kind of interventions that we put in place to make sure the child at the center of learning gets the best of intervention and support, be able to learn and learn absolutely.
All right. And in wrapping up the conversation, let's look at the second leg of the issue, which has to do with the dress code. But I think the most topical of the dress code issue has to do with the hairstyle that students should be allowed to wear on campus. As a PTA association, how does this, what are your thoughts on it? Has there been conversations within the teacher groupings and the family unions? And have you all come to an agreement where we are supporting what the minister is saying, or there are diverse opinions to the issue?
The truth of the matter is that this is not also a new thing. Let me be honest with you. It's not a new thing. Those days were all schooling till today. There have been directives on students' code of conduct and proper dressing. And I have a copy of that document. When I went through my archives, I was able to pull one, which predates 2024. And I've also gotten another one, which came up early January 2024. But then, people have not spoken much about it. So the minister is only re-echoing a directive that is in the system, but probably he is re-greasing the base so that we can be able to reinforce it properly. We all know and we wholeheartedly support that directive by the minister to the Ghana Education Service to enforce the code of conduct for students at the pre-tertiary level, particularly regarding improper dressing. And as representative of parents and guardians across Ghana, we believe this measure is vital for fostering an environment conducive for learning, discipline, and respect for the educational processes. And we are backing these statements with constitutional underpinning and laws backing the minister's directive. The 1992 Constitution of Ghana underscores the importance of education, that's Article 25, and also states the duty to provide educational facilities, that's Article 38. But implicit to these provisions is also the expectation that educational environments would uphold standards of promoting dignity, discipline, and focus on academic pursuits. Whereas Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana talks about fundamental human rights, Section 14 of the Chapter 5, in fact, Section 14 Clause 1E of the same Chapter 5 states as follows. Section 14 Clause 1. Every person shall be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty except in the following cases and in accordance with procedure permitted by law. Section 14(1)(e) states, for the purpose of educational welfare, for the purpose of education or welfare of a person who has not attained the age of 18 years. So the child at the pre-tertiary level, from the KG, the primary, the junior, the primary, the lower primary, the upper primary, the junior high school, the senior high school, most of these students at this level are not up to the age of 18. So because because they are not up to the age of 18, they are not seen as adults to take decisions on their own. So the Constitution gives us the right, not only the minister, it's a state impediment on all of us to see to it that we support that cause. So we believe that what the minister said was in line with constitutional provisions, and then that is the aspects of the Constitution that I've quoted. Besides that, it also helps parental perspective and concern. It also helps in creating a conducive school climate to make sure that we don't entrust schools with not only academic education, but also with character development, which includes proper dress codes by students such as neatly and well-prescribed attire and footwear always, decent haircuts as prescribed by school authorities. Such haircuts should be clean, neat, and modest, and should avoid extremes in styles and colors. Furthermore, men's hair should be neatly trimmed and beard clean shaven. Students should not wear chains, bangles, caps, braces, and wearing of spectacles shall be with medical prescription, for medical prescription. Also, bleaching of the skin by students should not be tolerated. The challenge we have is that concentration of education of late is at the secondary and the tertiary level. And we've left the basic schools. And you will see that this issue that the minister is talking about is not only at the secondary school. The basic schools, some of these challenges are also there. So we are saying that we need to all look at this issue holistically and make sure that proper dressing, it contributes a lot, and it focuses on respectful atmosphere, conducive for effective teaching and learning, character formation, and preparing the students for the world of work. Improper dressing, on the other hand, makes a student indisciplined, affecting decency and order in all spheres of life, and making them grow to become recalcitrant and irresponsible citizens and social misfits, which does not conform with our Ghanaian and African identity and brand. So we are saying that we all need to look at these things and then nip it in the bud. Discipline and character formation, these things are very important. And if you read the NCPTA Constitution, Section 2, Article 2, Section 1, A, B, and C, it speaks to these issues and says that to promote the general welfare of school-going students or wards in their homes, educational institutions, communities, and place of worship, to raise the standard of home life through effective early childhood upbringing. And then the C talks about to secure adequate laws for the care and protection of students and peoples. So this statement by the minister has also backing in the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and also finds space in our NCPTA Constitution. And we are saying that all these things will help in ensuring that there is safety and identity of the students. Because if any child can wear any dress to go to school, then we are in trouble.
Certainly.
If there is confusion, you cannot even identify the child with a particular school.
Yeah. Right.
So this also speaks to our culture, sensibilities, and balance. We cannot just allow students to dress anyhow. Even you, as a media person, you can't just dress anyhow and go into the studio to hold the mic to speak to us.
Certainly.
Because there's a brand and an image of Treve or TV that you have to protect. And every organization or wherever we work, there's dress code for work. So if the students have dress codes for them to go to school, I don't think this is something that we should over-muddy the waters and discuss it.
Certainly.
It is in line with standard procedures of regulating schools and make sure that proper governance and corporate practices are enhanced.
I mean, it's a position that I also strongly agree with, that if you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. Yeah. If you
Absolutely.
have,
what the Romans do.
If you have...
So in these rules, we also want to say that there might be exceptional cases where we have to look at it case by case and deal with it.
Yes.
For instance, I made this proverbial statement about Samson and Delilah in the Bible. If Delilah is the state and Samson is the student, and Samson's parents know that Samson's strength is in his hair, if for any genuine reason we will do something that can affect the child because of his hair or because of maybe certain things that he has done which have some spiritual connotations of the child, and there's any genuine backing to it, and that one, those which we can look at the exceptions and allow it to go. Because we all know in the Bible, when Samson's hair was trimmed, his strength went. Am I right, my brother?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
right.
in those cases, we are saying that we will temper justice with mercy. But when there's no justification, I don't think that we should allow it to stand.
Okay. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening, Raphael Kofi Gapson, General Secretary of the National Council of Parent-Teacher Association. Always a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's great always having you.
Right. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition. And as a parent, a guardian, your thoughts and comments are always very welcome, and we would share them with the rest of the world. So do keep them coming in. From my understanding of the conversation I've just had with the National Council of the Parent-Teacher Association, it means that they are in full agreement with the Education Minister's position that if you're going to secondary school, especially the second cycle institutions, just keep your hair according to the dictates of what the school requirements are. If you have a special case, the school can deal with it on special case-by-case basis. But there shouldn't be the generality that leave every child to come with their own hairstyle. That will not be countenanced, as the minister said. And from all indications, the school institutions are also going to be complying with it. So parents are warned or advised accordingly. Let's go to some other stories. Now, the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons says it will not hesitate to crack the whip on illegal possession of arms at the elapse of a yet-to-be-introduced amnesty program. The government is set to declare a gun amnesty as part of efforts to curb the increasing spread of illicit firearms and the rising cases of gun-related violence across the country. The Minister for the Interior, in collaboration with the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, says the program will allow individuals in possession of unregistered or illegal firearms to surrender them without arrest, interrogation, or prosecution. The acting head of communications and media at the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Reverend Kalni Anyatei-Soa, says the initiative is to clamp down on the increasing incidence of gun violence in some parts of the country.
From discussions, I can say that the minister is serious about fighting the proliferation. So if people do not take this activity serious, then I can tell you that the law will bite. The law will come after them because there will be law enforcement. If the minister declares this and you don't want to take advantage, then I'm sure that the law will actually take its course and it will fight those who want to be miscreants or those who want to keep the firearms for criminal activities. Because if the minister declares an amnesty, which actually gives you peace and freedom, because during the period, if you read the statement, during the period, there will not be prosecution, questions will not be asked. You are just being asked to surrender the firearm without prosecution, without any charges. So if you don't want to take advantage, then it only goes to suggest that you want to keep or hold those firearms for criminal activities, and the law will clamp down on such people. The minister is seriously considering this, and the minister is committed to fighting the proliferation. As to when he may declare, that lies in his bosom and wisdom. But we can tell Ghanaians to get ready because gun amnesty is coming. Well, like I said, the minister is still considering it. He is an expert, he's a technical person. So in his wisdom, once he's making those declarations, I'm sure he will put out the period. But what is important now is that we get ready as a people. What is important now is that we make up our mind to choose peace, to give our children hope. Because we can see that illicit firearms gradually is writing a story of sadness. Look at the fire festival. A family lost their child. What would they be associating with this fire festival come next year? It will bring them memories of the death of their child. It will bring them memories of murder, memories of a loss. And it is the same thing with the festival that happened in Teshi during the Omowo.
And that's the voice of Reverend Kalni Anyatei-Soa, who is the acting head of communications and media at the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons. Let's engage Dr. Victor Dokai, who is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center and a security analyst. Doc, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Dr. Victor Dokai.
Yeah.
Yes, good.
Good hearing from you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we can hear you clearly now. What do you make of this proposal? I mean, it's there are those who say it's long overdue, but at least there is that amnesty yet to come into force. Are you optimistic that people will willingly go and surrender their guns or get it registered so we know we have an estimation of who has a gun and who doesn't?
Thank you very much. I'm not very optimistic, not at all. In fact, I'm of the opposite. Now, we don't even know the guns in the system. You understand? And that is why they are undertaking this exercise in the first place. Because the truth of the matter is the aspects of tracking and data with regards to illegal weapons, we don't have it. And that is the problem. Why do I say so? You look at the local gun manufacturers all over in the northern part of Ghana, in the Volta region. We can't even know how many of them are there and how many locally manufactured weapons they produce and are in the hands of what criminal gangs or elements. So we don't have that data. So I'm very, very, very pessimistic. I'm a pessimistic person with regards to this initiative. It is yet to be enrolled. However, let's go back to conversations where we had even those who have registered weapons, right, and have been issued licenses. Their licenses have been expired and have not come back for renewal. I think they should start with that one first of all. The amnesty should be given to them. And then we move to conflict-prone areas where we have been overly, evidence has shown that weapons are in the hands of these youths. We should conduct a pilot in those areas and then give amnesty to them. First of all, let's see how this project, if it is a road, would be done, the results we evaluate, and then we can extend to the whole of the country. But as it is now, people have come to understand and have some sort of love for weapons and carrying it for various reasons, including self-defense. So I don't see why a young man in the Upper East region who sells his bull properties to obtain an AK-47 and says because there's an amnesty, it goes to what? Relinquish the weapon for what purpose? Whilst he says he doesn't trust the opposite faction, I don't see it happening.
Wow. The way you've put it actually sums it all up nicely for us, and certainly it's a conversation we'll be having again in the coming days. Thank you so much, Dr. Victor Doka, for speaking to us.
Thank you.
And he is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center and a security analyst. And do you know anybody that has a gun? Do you have one yourself? And if this amnesty is rolled out, would you willingly walk up and then register it or get it registered so that they get to know that Mr. A or Mrs. B has a gun? This is a very important national conversation we need to have in the wake of the fact that there seems to be an increase in the ownership of guns in the country, which most of it we do know is out of the database of who has a gun and who doesn't. Every now and then there's a scuffle and then people just pull out their guns and start firing. What does this mean? Going forward, we'll be happy to also share your thoughts on it. This is 3FM 92.7. Let's move on to some other stories tonight. And as we get ready to bring you the latest in the world of business, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, has announced that the DVLA will introduce biometric international driver's license and vehicle permits beginning next year. This move is coming in the wake of rejections of Ghanaian international driver's licenses and vehicle permits by some countries due to failure to meet international standards. Let's listen to the DVLA CEO, Julius Nikwe Kote, who told the Public Accounts Committee earlier today that there are plans to also set up offices in Ghana's embassies abroad to update driver's licenses and introduce new scannable number plates within the country with security features.
We are also having a foreign policy with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where DVLA will be located in most of the embassies outside Ghana. If anyone here gives you a passport picture and tells you that get me driver's license. That license that will be produced for you is fake, because we need your biometric details to be able to produce you with a driver's license, but they are not here. So most of the license they have outside there is not really correct. It's not correct, but we can't give our software out to foreign countries to victimize our own. So we deem it fit to go there with the help of Foreign Affairs to do the corrections for them. We were not able to meet ISO specifications when it comes to issuance of license, international license, and issuance of vehicle licenses, because it's just handwritten, which is not accepted by most countries. We procured machines, gotten the design to be accepted by ISO, so we can do proper international biometric page for our clients from 2026. The current number plate we have is not scannable. So anyone just brings a car, not pay duty, go out there to the streets, get the boys by the roadside to emboss a number plate for them.
And that's the voice of the DVLA CEO when he appeared before the Public Accounts Committee earlier today. That's it for this segment of the show. Time now for the latest in the world of business.
And welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. My name is Christabel. Success Treve. Coming up, Food and Beverages Association of Ghana warns government of billions in lost revenue daily in due smuggling crisis. We'll bring you details of these and other headline stories shortly. Stay with us. And now the details. The Food and Beverages Association of Ghana has issued an urgent public appeal to the government, warning that the escalating crisis of smuggling across Ghana's borders is causing the nation to lose billions of cedis in revenue each month. In a strongly worded statement, FABAG drew attention to the alarming levels of illicit trade, which is flooding the markets with untaxed and often substandard commodities like rice, cooking oil, sugar, alcoholic beverages, and textiles.
FABAG estimates that Ghana is losing hundreds of millions of cedis every week due to unmonitored smuggling activities at both official and unofficial entry points. The association labeled the situation a double tragedy, stating that while compliant businesses face rigorous tax regimes and rising operational costs, smugglers thrive unchecked and prosper through well-organized criminal networks. It noted that this massive revenue drain threatens the stability of our economy, diminishes investor confidence, erodes the Ghanaian city, and jeopardizes employment within our manufacturing and distribution sectors. FABAG called on the Ministry of Finance and all relevant authorities to take immediate and decisive action. Specifically, they appealed to the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and national security agencies to intensify enforcement efforts, deploy advanced surveillance technology, foster stronger collaboration with border communities.
That was a 3 Business Desk report on FABAG warning government of billions in lost revenue. So a final story, banking consultant Patrick Abankwa-Ba says the improvement in the non-performing loans is a reflection of the gains made with the economy so far. Inflation, for instance, has recently dropped to single digits, while the local currency has appreciated by over 20% against the US dollar this year alone.
I think that anytime we hear of NPL ratio reducing, what it means is that the economy in general is doing very well because people, when they have very good way of selling their products, their sales are going up. The tendency for them to be able to pay off their loans is very high. So anytime the economy does not do well, the tendency for customers not be able to pay their loans is always a problem. And so when you see NPLs reducing, for me, it's good news and it's good for the headlines. But we have to look at the dynamics of why it has reduced. And I think that from the report, it's driven by three dynamics. One is accelerated write-off of about is almost 1 billion Ghana cedis. Then there's also fully provisioning of some of the categories of the loans, and also faster growth in performing loans, which means.
Well, you just heard the banking consultant Patrick Abankwa-Ba. That'll be all for the business on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check our website, 3news.com. My name is Christabel. Success Treve. Sport is up next with bulletin.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. Now, after skipping 2 straight training sessions in protest over unpaid bonuses, the Black Queens have resumed training and agreed to play their 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations second leg match against Egypt. The team had earlier threatened to boycott the game until their outstanding payments were made. Each player is reportedly owed $9,500 for their bronze medal finish at the 2025 WAFCON in Morocco. Their refusal to train on Saturday and Sunday stemmed from frustrations over the delay in receiving the money. Tensions rose further after media reports claimed Sports Minister Kofi Adams had dismissed their grievances and told them to leave camp if they didn't want to play. The minister, however, has refuted these claims, promising that the bonuses will be paid within the week. My colleague Akosi AJ visited the team's training ground and filed this report.
So finally, the calm after the storm, as the Black Queens of Ghana are training at the Accra Sports Stadium, all 24 of them. Coach Kimlas Biokegrin overseeing his first training session here. Chantel having the opportunity to play her first game here. The coach is very much upbeat about the team winning tomorrow, despite all the distractions they have going to. And the players are also very optimistic about going all out to deliver, even though there are some unanswered questions they would still be needing answers to.
Meanwhile, despite holding a strong lead from the first leg, the team's coach, Kimlas Biokegren, insists that the task is not yet complete.
Happy to be back on the pitch again, of course, to do the final preparation for one important game against Egypt. We have put ourselves in a good situation, of course, with the 3-0 win, but it's just like halftime, so we need to finish and close this door now.
That was Kimlas Biokegren, the head coach of the Black Queens, bringing an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition and also to the entirety of the 3FM Hot Edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow with more updates. Until then, have a great evening.